They said Cristiano Ronaldo was finished. They said Portugal had finally outgrown him. They said a 41-year-old striker had no business standing in the middle of another World Cup storm. And then, just when the football world started preparing his farewell speech, Ronaldo walked back onto the biggest stage and turned the entire conversation upside down. 6 days earlier, the mood around Portugal was ugly. A frustrating draw against DR Congo had given the critics everything they wanted. Portugal had possession, stars, experience, and attacking talent everywhere. But the performance felt slow, predictable, and strangely nervous. And because this is Cristiano Ronaldo, every mistake became bigger than the match itself. Every missed chance became a headline. Every frustrated look became proof that maybe, just maybe, time had finally caught him. Then came the worst possible comparison. Lionel Messi had just delivered a World Cup hat-trick for Argentina, and suddenly the old debate exploded all over again. Messi was being celebrated as timeless. Ronaldo was being questioned as a burden. One legend was painted as magic. The other was treated like a problem Portugal needed to solve. But that is where football keeps making the same dangerous mistake, because Ronaldo's career has never been built on silence. It has been built on pressure, doubt, humiliation, and response. Every time people think the story is over, he finds one more chapter. Every time critics say the legs are gone, the instinct remains. Every time football asks if he still belongs, he answers in the only language that has followed him for 2 decades: goals. Against Uzbekistan, it took only 6 minutes. One sharp run, one ruthless finish, one reminder that age can slow a player down, but it cannot erase greatness overnight. By the end of the night, Ronaldo had scored twice, Portugal had won 5-0, and history had changed again. He became the first player ever to score in 6 different World Cups, while also becoming Portugal's all-time leading World Cup scorer. So now the question is no longer whether Ronaldo is finished. The real question is this: how many times does football need to be wrong before it stops writing him off? Before we go deeper, tell us where you're watching from. Right now, your city, your country, your club. And if you love football stories where legends refuse to disappear, make sure you subscribe, because this Ronaldo story is far from over. The draw against DR Congo did not just hurt Portugal on the table, it damaged the mood around the entire team. For a nation carrying Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, João Cancelo, Nuno Mendes, Rafael Leão, and Cristiano Ronaldo, one flat result felt like a warning sign. Portugal had the ball, but they did not have rhythm. They had names, but not enough speed. They had territory, but not enough danger. And when a team full of stars looks ordinary, the spotlight always finds the biggest name first. That name was Ronaldo. At 41, he was not judged like a normal player. He was judged like a symbol. If he scored, he was timeless. If he missed, he was finished. If Portugal looked slow, people said he was the reason. If the attack lacked movement, they said his presence was blocking the future. It was a brutal place to stand. After the final whistle, the conversation became louder than the match itself. Some fans said Portugal needed younger legs. Some pundits said Ronaldo should come off the bench. Others went further, asking whether his leadership had become heavier than his goals. But the truth was more complicated. Portugal's problems were not only about Ronaldo. The ball moved too slowly. The midfield lacked sharp final passes. The wide players did not attack with enough urgency. The team looked like it was waiting for one perfect moment instead of creating chaos. Still, Ronaldo became the headline because that is how his career works now. He is not allowed to have an average night. He is not allowed to look human. For most players, one poor game is forgotten. For Ronaldo, one poor game becomes a trial. And then Messi's hat-trick for Argentina made everything even more painful. Suddenly, the world was comparing 2 legends again. Messi was being called eternal, Ronaldo was being called expired. That was the moment the story changed. Because pressure has always followed Ronaldo, but pressure has also always fed him. And 6 days later, Portugal needed more than a win. They needed an answer. Ronaldo needed more than a goal. He needed a reminder. Against Uzbekistan, that reminder came fast. 6 minutes can be enough to change a game. For Cristiano Ronaldo, 6 minutes were enough to change the entire conversation. Portugal stepped onto the field against Uzbekistan with a different energy. The passing was quicker, the movement was sharper, the fullbacks pushed higher, the midfield looked more aggressive. There was no waiting, no fear, no slow opening. Portugal attacked like a team that had heard every insult and wanted to respond immediately. Then João Cancelo found space on the right. It was not a complicated move. It was not some perfect tactical masterpiece. It was football at its most dangerous. Speed, timing, and one killer run into the box. Cancelo drove the ball low toward the near post area, and Ronaldo moved before the defenders could react. That is the part people forget. Ronaldo may not have the same acceleration he had at 25. He may not run through entire defenses like the old Manchester United version. But inside the penalty area, his timing is still elite. He does not need 5 touches. He does not need a highlight move. He only needs 1/2 second of separation. And that was all he got. 1 touch, 1 finish, 1 goal. Portugal were ahead. And suddenly, every critic had to pause. The same player they said was holding Portugal back had just broken the tension before the match could even become dangerous. But the goal meant more than 1-0. It meant Ronaldo had scored in 6 different World Cups. 6 different World Cups. From 2006 to 2026, through different generations, different coaches, different teammates, different versions of himself, he was still there. That is not normal longevity. That is football history. The stadium understood it, his teammates understood it, even the defenders chasing him understood they were standing inside a moment that would be remembered far beyond the final whistle. Ronaldo did not just give Portugal the lead. He reminded the world that legends do not always leave when people tell them to. The second major moment of the match showed why Ronaldo's influence cannot always be measured with simple statistics. Portugal had a dangerous free kick, the ball was placed, the wall was set, the goalkeeper adjusted his position, and every single person inside the stadium knew what the camera wanted. Ronaldo standing over the ball. For years that image has carried weight. The wide stance, the deep breath, the crowd rising before the shot even happens. Defenders know it, goalkeepers know it, fans know it. Even now, at 41, Ronaldo's presence still changes how opponents think. Uzbekistan prepared for Ronaldo to shoot. That was the trap. Instead, Nuno Mendes stepped up and struck it low, clean, and ruthless into the far corner. The goalkeeper was late. The wall reacted too slowly. Portugal were 2 goals ahead, and Ronaldo never even touched the ball. But somehow, he still shaped the moment. That is what makes late career Ronaldo so fascinating. His value is not only in the goals he scores, it is in the panic he creates, it is in the defenders who stay attached to him, it is in the goalkeeper who leans half a step the wrong way. It is in the entire stadium expecting one outcome, which allows Portugal to create another. No assist, no official credit, but real influence. And that is where the conversation around Ronaldo needs more honesty. He is not the same player he was. He is not controlling every phase of attack. He is not beating defenders from midfield and creating chances out of nothing every 5 minutes. But he still bends the game. Opponents still plan around him. Teammates still use his gravity. Coaches still know that if the right ball arrives, he can punish anyone. That free kick was not about nostalgia, it was about fear. Uzbekistan feared Ronaldo so much that Portugal used that fear against them. And when a player can change defensive behavior without touching the ball, he is not finished. He is still dangerous. The third goal was the answer the critics did not want to see. Bruno Fernandes picked up the ball and carried it forward with purpose. This was the kind of movement Portugal had lacked against DR Congo. Direct, brave, vertical. No endless sideways passing, no hesitation. Just one midfielder lifting his head and looking for the run that could break the match open. Ronaldo saw it early. That is the difference between speed and instinct. Younger players may run faster, but very few read space faster. Ronaldo moved between the defenders before the pass arrived. Not too early, not too late. Exactly when the back line was vulnerable. Bruno released the ball. Ronaldo controlled the angle and finished into the far corner. 3-0 Portugal. 2 goals for Ronaldo, and suddenly the same question returned with more force. How many times can people call this man finished before they start looking foolish? Of course, some critics still tried to reduce it. They called it a service goal. They said Bruno created it. They said Ronaldo only finished the move. But that argument misses the entire point. At 41 years old, Ronaldo's job is not to play like a winger from 2008. His job is not to dominate every inch of the pitch. His job is to occupy defenders, make the right runs, and finish the chances Portugal failed to finish in the previous match. Against Uzbekistan, he did exactly that. This was not about proving he was young again. It was about proving he was still useful at the highest pressure level. And there is a major difference between a player being past his physical prime and a player being unable to help his team. Ronaldo is clearly not in his prime, but he is also clearly not irrelevant. His second goal showed the role Portugal need from him now. Less chaos, more precision, less constant involvement, more punishment. less volume, more timing, and if Portugal can build around that version wisely, Ronaldo does not have to be the entire system. He only has to be the blade at the end of it. What made the 5-0 win so important was that it was not only a Ronaldo story, it was a Portugal story. Against DR Congo, Portugal looked heavy. Against Uzbekistan, they looked alive. The ball moved with speed. The wide areas became dangerous. The midfield finally played with confidence. The team did not wait for Ronaldo to rescue them. They created a platform where Ronaldo could do what he still does best. That difference matters. Bruno Fernandes gave Portugal direction. He pushed the ball forward, broke lines, and played with the urgency of a leader who understood the pressure. João Cancelo brought width and delivery. Nuno Mendes gave the left side explosiveness and then added a decisive moment from the free kick. Rafael Leão came off the bench and added the final punch with his pace and power. This was the balance Portugal had been missing. Ronaldo can still score, but Portugal cannot become predictable around him. If every attack becomes a cross, if every possession becomes a search for one man, elite opponents will solve it. But when Bruno drives through midfield, Cancelo attacks space, Mendes overlaps, Leão runs at tired legs, and Ronaldo occupies the centre-backs, Portugal become far more difficult to defend. That was the real lesson from the night. Ronaldo does not need Portugal to worship him tactically. He needs Portugal to move fast enough around him. When the team plays with tempo, his presence becomes a weapon. When the team plays slowly, his limitations become easier to see. Uzbekistan felt the best version of the formula. Ronaldo was not everywhere. He did not need to be. He stayed dangerous in the zones that matter most. And while defenders watched him, other Portuguese stars found space to punish them. This is how Portugal can survive the tension between legacy and evolution. They do not have to erase Ronaldo to move forward. They just have to stop making everything depend on him. No Ronaldo story exists in isolation, because Messi's shadow is always nearby. That may be unfair, but it is reality. For almost 2 decades, football has treated Ronaldo and Messi like two sides of the same impossible argument. Every goal, every trophy, every record, every failure, every emotional moment has been pulled into the debate. So when Messi scored a World Cup hat-trick for Argentina just before Ronaldo's criticism exploded, the reaction was predictable. Messi was praised as a genius aging with grace. Ronaldo was questioned as a legend refusing to let go. One performance made Messi look eternal. One performance made Ronaldo look outdated. That comparison added fuel to everything. But here is the truth. Their stories have never been identical. Messi's greatness often looks like control. Ronaldo's greatness often looks like defiance. Messi can make the game feel soft and inevitable. Ronaldo makes the game feel like a challenge he refuses to lose. That is why Ronaldo's response against Uzbekistan mattered emotionally. He was not just answering Portugal's critics, he was answering the old debate again. He was reminding everyone that even if Messi is flying, even if younger stars are rising, even if time is closing in, Ronaldo still has a voice in football's biggest conversation. And that is why fans cannot look away. Because this is no longer only about who is better. That argument may never truly end. This is about two legends stretching history beyond anything football expected. One, still painting games with vision. The other, still attacking the box like every goal is personal. Ronaldo knows the comparison will never disappear. But maybe that is part of what keeps him alive in these moments. Every time Messi raises the standard, Ronaldo feels the world watching. Every time Ronaldo is doubted, he finds another response. The rivalry has changed. It is no longer about who owns the future. It is about who can still leave one final mark on history before the curtain falls. Football has a strange habit with Cristiano Ronaldo. It does not simply ask whether he is declining. It tries to announce his ending. It happened when he left Manchester United. It happened when he moved to Saudi Arabia. It happened at Euro 2024. It happened after quiet nights for Portugal. And it happened again after the DR Congo draw. The pattern is always the same. One difficult performance becomes evidence. One missed chance becomes a symbol. One frustrated face becomes a headline. Then the conversation moves from analysis to obituary. Not football death in a literal sense, but the repeated attempt to close his story before he is ready. That is the mistake. Decline is real. Nobody can escape time. Ronaldo cannot sprint the way he once did. He cannot press like a young forward for 90 minutes. He cannot carry every attack from start to finish. To pretend otherwise would be dishonest. But decline is not disappearance. A player can lose certain powers and still keep one decisive gift. For Ronaldo, that gift is goal instinct. The timing, the hunger, the movement, The ability to turn one moment into a result. That skill has survived longer than almost anything else. This is why writing him off is dangerous. Because even when he looks quiet, defenders cannot relax. Even when he goes long stretches without touching the ball, the next touch might decide the game. Even when people say he is slowing Portugal down, one run can change the entire emotional temperature of a tournament. Against Uzbekistan, he did not destroy the argument forever. Bigger tests will come. Stronger defenses will ask harder questions. Portugal will need more than nostalgia to go deep, but he did destroy the easy version of the argument. The idea that he is simply finished. The idea that Portugal are automatically better without him. The idea that his presence only creates problems. Football wanted a simple ending. Ronaldo gave it a complicated sequel. Portugal's biggest challenge now is not deciding whether Ronaldo still matters. He clearly does. The bigger challenge is deciding how to use him without becoming trapped by him. That is the strategic question. If Portugal build everything around Ronaldo, they risk becoming predictable. Opponents will crowd the box, cut off service, and force Portugal into slow crosses. That is when the attack starts to look old, heavy, and easy to read. But if Portugal use Ronaldo as one weapon inside a larger system, everything changes. Bruno Fernandes must keep driving the tempo. Bernardo Silva must help control rhythm without slowing the attack too much. Cancelo and Mendes must stretch the field. Leão must bring direct running. The midfield must look forward earlier. Portugal cannot wait for the perfect pass. They have to create pressure from different angles. That is how Ronaldo becomes most dangerous now. Not as the entire solution, as the final consequence. When defenders are already worried about Bruno's passing, Cancelo's delivery, Mendes' speed, and Leo's power, Ronaldo becomes harder to track. When Portugal attack quickly, he does not need to cover huge distances. He only needs to arrive at the right moment. The Uzbekistan match gave Portugal a blueprint. Fast ball movement, multiple threats, Ronaldo in the box. No emotional panic, no forcing the story, just using every player for what he does best. But the warning remains, a 5-0 win can create confidence, but it can also create illusion. Portugal must not believe every opponent will open the same spaces. Stronger teams will be more physical, more organized, and less afraid of the occasion. That means Portugal need maturity. They need to respect Ronaldo's greatness without becoming dependent on it. They need to honor the captain without freezing the future. And Ronaldo, more than anyone, must accept that the best version of this Portugal may not require him to dominate every minute. It only requires him to be ready when history calls. Cristiano Ronaldo's story has never been peaceful. It has always lived in noise, praise, criticism, comparison, doubt, obsession, pressure. For more than 2 decades, he has stood at the center of football's loudest conversations and somehow kept finding ways to answer. That is why this moment matters. At 41, he is not fighting the same battle he fought as a young superstar. He is not trying to prove he can become the best in the world. He already climbed that mountain. He's not trying to prove he can score goals. The record books already scream his name. Now he is fighting something harder. He is fighting the way people remember him while he is still playing. Every match becomes a referendum on his legacy. Every goal becomes proof he still belongs. Every quiet night becomes evidence for those waiting to say goodbye. That is a heavy way to live inside a tournament, but maybe that is the final lesson of Ronaldo's career. Greatness is not only about being perfect. It is about responding when people doubt you. It is about adapting when time takes something away. It is about accepting that you cannot be who you were while still maximizing who you are. Portugal must learn the same lesson. The future cannot be built only on the past. But the past does not have to be thrown away to make room for the future. Ronaldo, Bruno, Bernardo, Cancelo, Mendes, Leão, and the next generation can exist together if the team plays with intelligence, humility, and balance. That is the human side of this story. Football does not need to turn every debate into disrespect. Fans can celebrate Messi without tearing down Ronaldo. They can admire Ronaldo without insulting Messi. They can support young players without mocking legends who gave everything to the game. Because in the end, football is bigger than arguments. It is memory, emotion, identity, and hope. After DR Congo, the world tried to close Ronaldo's book. After Uzbekistan, he opened it again. Maybe the final chapter is coming. Maybe time will win soon, because time always wins eventually. But for now, Cristiano Ronaldo is still here, still scoring, still chasing history, and still forcing the football world to ask one unforgettable question. Are we absolutely sure this story is over? If this story reminded you why football is more than just numbers, leave a like, share it with another football fan, and subscribe for more deep stories from inside the beautiful game. And tell us in the comments, what does Cristiano Ronaldo's legacy mean to you?